Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And on behalf of the Frederick Community College Library, thank you so much for coming to our event tonight. My name is Patty Hude, and I'm the Learning and Information Literacy Specialist at the FCC Library. And so our virtual book reading tradition kind of started by accident. So in the spring of 2020, we had a in-person on-campus event scheduled with Sarah Bigham's book, Kind Chemist Wife. But because of the pandemic, that had to be moved online. And it went so well, we decided that it's something we wanted to continue. We really like supporting and celebrating our FCC community authors. And this is just a great opportunity to do so. So tonight we have Professor Christine Ray with us, a dynamic award-winning FCC English professor. Christine Ray is an interdisciplinarian who specializes in food studies, culture, and experiential learning. She leads local and international trips and tours, talks and tastings, writes about food, travel, and teaching, and creates vibrant multimedia art. A lifelong Maryland resident, Christine lives in Montgomery County's agricultural reserve with her family. And Christine tonight will be talking about her first book, Rainbows in the Rain and Stars in the Dark, Inspiration for Positive Living. The book contains 20 simple lessons for a life with a joyful outlook. And who doesn't need more joy in their life, right? So it features Christine's own art, and she designed the font as well. I've had the opportunity to read the book, and it really is beautiful and has a beautiful message. So I put the link on if you haven't had the chance, you can get the book through her website, which I put in the chat. And when Christine's done, if you have any questions, we'll have some time for a Q&A. So Christine, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for the nice introduction, Patty. So I want to extend a warm welcome for everybody. I know we're all tired. It's a Thursday. It feels like maybe the third Thursday of this singular week. And COVID is still with us. So yes, indeed, I think we could all use a little shot of sunshine in our lives. And so thank you for carving out this time. So I wanted to let you know up front that tonight is not going to be solely a traditional book reading. I will be reading portions from my book. I'll be holding it up kind of story time style, so you can see the artwork, which is a really key piece of its message and its energy. But I also want to talk to you about the creative journey behind it. And, you know, as an educator, part of what I do is hopefully sparking other people's desire to do something similar. So I'm hoping maybe tonight, of course, I hope you'll enjoy the book and the art and the reading and our time together. But I also hope that maybe you'll come away from tonight and you'll think, you know, I have an idea for a creative project, or maybe something you've been wanting to do for a while and you're like, you know what, now's the time, I'm going to start. So we'll have a little bit of a hybrid experience today, and we'll end with a Q&A, as Patty said. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. We'll come back to it at the end, or you can, you know, unmute yourself at the end and speak up. So I don't really need to introduce myself, obviously, but I guess just to jump in and start talking about the book. So this was actually a 3-year journey. I started the work on this book in 2018, and it all sprouted from a dialogue with a colleague of mine. He had talked about maybe one day wanting to write a book for his daughters. And I came away from that, and the idea, that seed just stuck in my head, and I couldn't get rid of it. I have 2 daughters. One is now in 9th grade and the other is in 4th grade. And I thought, you know, I would love to leave them and give them this gift. And so a lot of thought went into it, like, what would it be? You know, would I write a memoir? I mean, for me, I was a horrible teenager, so it would be like, don't do this. I didn't want to write that book, definitely not. And my kids are much better behaved than I am. So I thought, what might be helpful, especially with that split in ages. And I said, I don't want to write a book for them right now and only now. I don't want to write a kid book. I wanted to write a book that was kind of timeless, right? Where my kid who was in elementary school could understand the lessons, appreciate them, but also my child in, at the time, middle school, could also read into it, but something that could grow with them. So I kind of wanted something that was, I guess, deceptively simple, right? I didn't want anything that was a long, heavy read. I didn't want anything like heavy, super deep philosophy or complex syntax or anything like that, but something that was deep in its own way, in its own simplicity. So that's what I went for. And then the more I started thinking about it, I was just like, well, it's not going to be just words, because I'm a very, creative person. Originally, I actually wanted to be an art and an English teacher. And then I found out the paths for being certified were completely crazy. And I'm like, I don't have time to do that. I'm going to go with English because I can get a job easier that way and do art in the summer. But honestly, I didn't do art in the summer, spoiler alert. So I thought, now I can come back to this passion and this essential part of myself that kind of had been neglected for all these years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll give you a peek later at the process that I went through to kind of brainstorm. Most of the classes I teach at FCC are English 101, so kind of basic writing stuff. So I like to talk to people about the process and how it's messy, and you shouldn't be scared to make mistakes and so on and so forth. So we'll explore a little bit of that, but I've done enough yapping. Let's take a look at the book, okay? So as Patty said, I did the art, I wrote it, and I created my own font. It's basically a stylized version of my handwriting. I thought it would be a little more personal and intimate that way. And so you may wonder about the title, Rainbows in the Rain and Stars in the Dark. It's actually a quote from Oscar Wilde. He said, when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. And I know there's been more rightful attention given lately to this idea of toxic positivity, right? Like at all times, no matter what we're enduring, we must have a smile on our face, right? Like good vibes only. But we've all been through some really hard times, particularly lately. And let's face it, life is tough in general. So I really liked this quote because it recognizes that, yeah, the clouds and the storms are inevitable. We are going to go through them. But if we can, maintain some hope and we can persist, that, we can find beauty and we can come through it. So I thought that was something really appropriate. So as Patty said, there are just basically 20 simple, I guess lessons would be the best thing. I don't know, kind of things you could maybe meditate on. So each one has an original piece of artwork on the left side, and then sort of a faded version with sort of the meditation at the top, and then just a handful of sentences to give you some more detail. So this one is Be You. You are special and unique. There has not been, is not, and will not be anyone like you. You are a radiant and precious soul. Be authentic and true to yourself. And it's interesting, the artwork for this page, I can dig it up. I told you I was going to do show and tell. Why should elementary kids have all the fun? This was actually one of the first pieces of artwork that I did early on for the book. It's acrylic paint. Most of them have another layer of media on top, but this is just acrylic on paper. And I actually did end up, as I was working my way through the book and the artwork, using this artwork. I should have grabbed it. I got distracted, but I actually used this artwork to do a Black Lives Matter fundraiser 2 summers ago. So I superimposed a black heart on it with Black Lives Matter and made t-shirts and stickers and some other stuff, and donated 100% to a couple really great organizations, the Equal Justice Initiative, as well as Baltimore's Black Yield Institute, which is amazing. But I like this because this is emblematic of the spirit I wanted in the book, right? And I think this is the power of joining words with images of some kind, right? You can get more of that spirit and more of that energy, that vibrancy, that hope, and the interest, because all the art in this book is abstract art, which, to be honest with you, I have never done before. So this was like a total experiment for me. But again, I wanted it to be something where no matter who picked up this book, if their background, their age, their own personal philosophy, that it would speak to them. So there needed to be some elbow room, some space in between the words as well as in the art. And in fact, when the final copies of the book came in to my house and I gave them to my daughters, we sat down on the couch, one on either side of me, and we went through page by page. And I explained why I did abstract art. And we had the coolest conversation because they went through and they were like, oh, I can see how this relates to this. It ended up being really, really neat. So actually the second one, which I feel really captures a lot of the message of the book, is feel the joy. Your attitude and outlook can determine what you experience and shape what you believe. Look for the positive and stay sunny. Be thankful and keep your smile. So again, this idea of positive perspective and this idea of you having your own energy that can be maintained despite any kind of swirling maelstrom that may be surrounding you. And I know tonight, like, I'm sitting here with my big smile and these like crazy lightning bolt earrings. But, you know, I have this perspective, just like all of us, you know, having been through some really tragic and tough times. And so I think this is one of the beautiful things about human nature is how we do endure and how through our own experiences and challenges, we can inspire others and give others strength. And that was something I wanted to capture in this book as well. The next one I want to share with you is this one, See the World. So those of you that are students or colleagues of mine at FCC know that I've led 2 trips abroad for students, one to France and one to Italy in January 2020. Woo. We dodged a bullet on that one. So I really do feel really passionately about people keeping an open mind, and, you know, if your resources allow, to literally travel the world, but if not, you know, traveling the world through art, through literature, through food, through your interactions with other people. So this one, See the World. We live in an amazing place. Fill yourself with its wonder and beauty. As you explore, appreciate other cultures and learn new languages. That being said, I'm not fluent in any other language. You know, I'm very good at saying hi, bye, where's the bathroom in a handful of languages, and I can order off the menu pretty well. I have a good cultural grasp of stuff. And so I think even if we can start with that, there's an idea of understanding another culture through their syntax, through their expressions, through what people prioritize by assigning names to the concepts that they value. So definitely seeing the world, although certainly COVID has put a crimp in that for most of us. The next one I want to share with you, and this is actually one of my favorite pieces of artwork from the book because it's just really, really vibrant, and I like the energy behind it. This is one, it was an acrylic painting in the background, and then this sort of hot pink zigzags. These are all dry pastel, chalk pastel. And of course, as an educator or a professional nerd, as I like to call myself, I like, you know, never stop learning, right? So curiosity and an open mind are gifts. Learn in and out of school and from books. Listen to others, especially if older or from other places. And I think this is part of the message of this book too, is to pause and not only look inward, but also look outward, right? What do you see? Who do you see? And I really like the idea of focusing your attention and listening to people who are outside your usual orbit. I think particularly as Americans, we can really benefit from that practice for sure. So definitely school is great. I don't want to, interfere with my job security or anything, but, we have opportunities to learn all around us. Now, the next one won't surprise anyone who knows me. I'm very passionate about food. All of my English 101 classes at FCC are food studies themed. I think that food is a high interest vehicle. We all have to eat. And no matter what students are studying, food often overlaps with their courses of study. And plus food is just something that in general is pleasurable. And so I definitely wanted to dedicate a page to food. I see Brian Stippelman on here. Sometimes eating well can mean going to the Frederick Fair and enjoying seasonal treats, right? I'm not the food police, but this page is Eat Well. Food is love and culture. It's the foundation for health and happiness. Savor your food and enjoy your meals with friends and family. So just thinking about, if you eat 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day, if we can all just pause at that time and, ideally sit down with someone that we care about, someone we want to spend time with, or just someone to keep us company, and kind of press pause on all the busy things we have going on to really nourish our bodies, but also nourish our spirits and nourish our minds at that time. The last one I'm going to read for you is one that I thought, which one am I going to end on? So I thought I should end on one of these sort of meditations that would kind of be a good encapsulation of the whole book. And this artwork, to be honest with you, I really struggled with what to do on this one. And you can see there's sort of black borders at the edges. And this one is enjoy life. Life is beautiful and each day is a gift. Appreciate even the small things deeply. Let people know you care about them. Every day is a wonderful new beginning. And again, I want to emphasize, I'm not promoting toxic positivity. Some days are going to be really hard. They're going to suck. Some weeks and months and even years can be tougher than others. But if we can just continue to keep that perspective of each day, you get some small restart. You don't have to wait until, December 31st, January 1st, that calendar switching over, right? If we can develop that mindset, it can really be energizing and I think liberating for us and the people in our lives. So that's it for the actual reading part tonight. But I did want to point out, this is in the afterword, that all the sales of my book, I'm going to be donating 10% to the Omid Foundation. Omid means hope in Farsi. And this is an organization that works to help disadvantaged and marginalized girls and young women. Traditionally in Iran, unfortunately, the Iranian government in the last few years decided they felt differently and kicked the Omid staff out. And so they've had to move their programs. And with a lot of study and deliberation, they're now doing a lot of great work in some of the refugee camps in Greece. So many refugees who are fleeing that region of the world are ending up without a lot of resources and support. So they do a lot of holistic support around education, counseling, job training, and just empowerment things like hiking, martial arts, yoga, art. And so I'm really proud to support this organization through this book, because I feel that, girls, young women, and people all over the world should deserve a chance to live a vibrant and a healthy life, right? So now we're going to get into the show and tell stuff. Hold on, I'm checking things off my list. So I'm gonna let you look at this really messy, ugly, gross. Some of it is like really embarrassing and badly done, but that's okay because again, as a teacher, I feel that we should be able to be honest, particularly when we're talking about brainstorming and rough drafts and things like that. Sometimes it's going to be ugly. We might feel like self-censoring and saying, I'm not good enough to do this. This is a stupid idea. Nobody wants this. But if we can tell those voices like, and persist, like, and work through it, it's really rewarding, not only for you, but also for the people that you share it with. So as I said, I kind of did some brainstorming around what is this book going to be? And I got the idea of this sort of very curated set of sort of meditations on life or inspirations, however you want to put it. So the first thing, being an English teacher, I started brainstorming what are some sort of essential life lessons. And I tell my students this, and let me tell you, sometimes it's hard to take your own medicine. I tell my students when you're brainstorming, don't censor, don't say, oh, that's a dumb idea, I'm not writing it down. Just write it down. So I look at some of these now and they're pretty cringy. You know, like there's one, I wrote down seize the day. And I'm like, I'm definitely not going to put seize the day in the book, but I did want that spirit, right? That energy of, you know, take advantage of, you know, these opportunities of that fresh start, you know, do what you can do. So I just went through and brainstormed. I came up with the magic number 20. I thought that was a good number. Don't ask me why or how. I also should say I started this at the worst possible time, which is right when the semester was starting in mid-August. Why I didn't start it like back in June or late May, I have no idea, but you know, I listened to my inner muse or whatever. I also did some stuff with like trying to figure out the layout. I'm a really visual person, so for some reason that was important to me early on. So I would tell you, if you decide to embark on a creative project, don't feel like you need to follow these prescribed steps, right? Like you know yourself best. So if it's helpful for you to go out of order, feel free to do so. So then I kind of went through and I curated the kind of lessons down. And then I was like, all right, well, how do I want to organize these things? So I had the idea of moving from more broad in general to more specific and to more personal. And so actually the last two lessons in the book, I'm reaching. I am not a tall person, so I don't have long arms. The last two lessons in the book are the most personal. So the penultimate one is love yourself. And then the last one is you are loved. And for me, I thought they were kind of two halves of a whole, right? Like we need to value ourselves and to treasure ourselves, care for ourselves, as well as being open to the love that's all around us. I'm a Bjork fan. I really love her. Yes, the lady from Iceland with the swan dress. And one of her favorite songs of mine is All is Full of Love. And it's this idea of the universe is absolutely full of love and care, and we're all seen. And yes, I suppose that's really idealistic if we look at the news and you see all the horrible things that are happening around us, and sometimes to us. But if we can try to maintain that perspective, and if we're in a place of privilege and ability to funnel some of that love to people that are in need, I think that we can truly transform our communities and even the world. So it was important for me to end on those 2 points. Now we're going to get into the ugly, cringy stuff. I don't want to disappoint you, I promised. So then once I decided on those 20 lessons, I was like, all right, I'm going to do art. I know that. I don't know what kind. And then I also kind of started thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to have kind of the lesson. It's going to be really short, simple, like I said, open to interpretation for different people. And Then I'm gonna have a handful of sentences kind of giving more detail. And then the idea of art. So here is the first one for BU. So you can see I was kind of moving through these ideas, some more representative, and then others were more like, well, maybe it'll just be like a funky like text, you know, it won't be art, it will be more graphic. So I kind of moved through that with a lot of these. I also had the idea of maybe making them kind of cute or cartoony, because I do lunch notes every day for my daughters, and a lot of them are really cute and they enjoy it. So I thought, oh, it'd be kind of nice to have this permanent lunch note thing. And the more I thought about it, I was just like, well, Christine, if they're going to be like 40 years old and reading this thing, is that what you want to, is that what you're going to do? And as over time, I changed my mind, and I, you know, talked to friends and family that I was working on this thing. And more people said, well, Christine, you know, you're going to make this thing for your daughters. Why not just publish it and make it for others? And I thought, you know, I think that's a great idea. Instead of just having this super narrow audience and purpose, why not broaden it? So then it's more of a discussion and more of an inspiration for a wider amount of people. So this was very early on in the process. Like, some of this stuff is stupid, but it's okay. I took my medicine and I drew it anyway. I would get up early, sometimes 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning. I would make my coffee and I would go downstairs and I would clear off my desk and I'd have my art supplies. And each day I would work on one of these concepts from the book. And so I basically kind of worked through all of these thumbnails, and some were really hard too, right? You know, like I did breathe, and I was like, what could I do for breathe? So I was really happy I got through that, and I just hit upon the idea of doing abstract art again to make more open to people. So then I'm just flipping through this. This is kind of like layout stuff. So once I decided on more abstract art, I had already decided on the 20 kind of lessons, and I had already written sort of the text for each one. Then I kind of did like little thumbnails for each of these. So you can see, like, this is Feel the Joy, right? So this idea of like sun or like energy radiating outwards. Here I go, reaching through my book again. Sorry if anyone gets motion sickness. Like waving papers around. So you can see how it started with these messy things, right? And then it ended up into being this painting. So sort of, again, the idea of giving yourself permission to work through things, to change things, to not censor yourself, and to really kind of give yourself time with the process. Like for me personally, doing just one each day worked for me. If I had the time and energy, I could really delve into it. If I didn't, at least I was making forward progress, right? So flipping through, then I got into talking about titles. You know, some of these again are really like, I kind of want to burn this, but I've kept it because I think it's helpful to document the process, right? And I should say, at some point, I decided that I was going to self-publish it, and I had no idea what I was doing at all. So I had to research, like, what are the options that are out there? Which one would be best? Do I want hardcover, soft cover? And there's all this language around it, which is super, super technical. And my brain just doesn't work that way. And so I had to look for what I thought was the simplest way to do a high color, like high, you know, image book. And so that's what I got through this process. It was definitely a learning curve. So then once I kind of did all those like sort of round 2 of thumbnails, like I just showed you, then I went in and each morning I said, okay, I'm going to do 2 sets of artwork for each one of these sort of meditations. I narrowed it down, different media. I said, I want to do painting, which is also insane because I've never been formally taught to paint. Don't ask me what got into me, but something. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do watercolor or if I want to do acrylic. So each morning I would make a little thumbnail of both. So this is, again, the first one, Be You. This is watercolor. And you can see here too, I was fooling around with the font. I still wasn't aware that I was going to make a font on the computer. I thought, oh, maybe I'll just paint it or write it over the artwork, which I later said, no, I can't do that. So you can see here, like playing with color combinations and movement. And then same thing with acrylic, and kind of trying to figure out what gave it the feel that I liked. And some of these I really liked. You can see the Feel the Joy, how that was something that definitely got translated later into the actual book. And then some of them I didn't like. I went back later, like I had a hard time with this one. Like I actually did like 3 pages and then I let them dry. I gave myself a day to kind of sit on it. And then I went back and like critiqued them. Like this one is too blobby. And this one is ugh. And then this one is blah. So then I was able to go back and kind of like, I guess, weigh, all right, what am I going to do here? So that ended up being really time consuming to do the art. So then once I got through this, I decided that I was going to do acrylic. I like the vibrancy. I like the texture. I thought it would translate well on the page. So then I started going through and I bought like, paper for painting. I showed you this one already. And so I made the 20 pieces of art plus the art for the cover. And so after I did the paintings though, like I felt like something was missing. So here's the BU. So I thought, I've been playing around in my sketchbooks, like drawing on top of paintings in my sketchbooks. And I said, I think we need another layer here to make it a little more dynamic. So like this one, for example, it's chalk pastel on top of the acrylic. And some of these were really hard because again, I'm not a formally trained painter. And I had never really worked with acrylic before. Let me see, I'm going through the whole stack. There were some, I'll be totally honest with you. I went back to them multiple times and still wasn't too happy with them. This was one, however, I was happy with. This is the Be Brave one. So I wanted to kind of have the idea of thunderstorms and a sort of lurking danger. And it was a little challenging. I like the shapes, but then like the colors were kind of so dense and kind of had this weird sheen to it. It was a little bit of a challenge. But again, I persisted through it and just doing one a day gave me some needed perspective and time to not get mad and be like, oh, this sucks and throw it in the trash can or what have you. So I would encourage you, if you're thinking of a creative project or want to do one, give yourself some time and some breathing space, like sleep on it as it were. Don't rush yourself and kind of try to appreciate the process. This is one I really enjoyed. And to be honest with you, I have no idea where this came from. When I finished with it, it looked to me almost like some of this really super cool, like batiqued, like African fabrics, where it's like these really bright, vibrant patterns and kind of like unexpected color combinations. But I had fun with this one. It's acrylic again with charcoal on top, the black. And then I was actually just dotting with the paintbrush here for the yellow. So once I got all of these done, I figured out the layout of the book. I figured out through much trial and error and many headaches how to actually do it. I experimented with various programs. And finally, weirdly enough, because I was doing like the artwork on the left and then the faded version on the right with the text on top, the font that I made, I was like, what program can I do this in? And like, yes, I'm sure you can do all kinds of amazing Adobe fill in the blanks, but like, that's not my skill set. And I didn't have the time or the bandwidth to teach it to myself. But I played around enough with Microsoft Word, which as an English teacher, I'm pretty familiar with. And I was actually able to do this in Word of all things. And I should say this is thanks to my husband's friend, who is a really skilled amateur photographer. I had tried photographing the artwork with our fancy camera and then doing some photoshopping to make the colors more vibrant without success. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it looked awful. So I contacted Pedro and I was just like, hey, what do you recommend? And he said, well, if you can bring me the artwork, and at this point we were in the pandemic, he said, well, if you can bring me the artwork, I can scan it at work. And so I said, okay, as long as it's not going to cause a problem at your workspace and, it has chalk and stuff on it, I don't want to like destroy your company's scanner. He's like, nah, it's fine. So he very generously scanned all the artwork for me. And then I was able to work some Microsoft Word magic. Who knew? I'm used to using it for like essays and stuff. Yeah, this is one of the art pieces I told you that was challenging for me. Enjoy life. So just sort of these black edges and this idea of like, I don't know, energy and movement, like this sort of center column. Yeah, I just think about this one. This one was one I had to keep coming back to and fiddling with because I just wasn't happy with it at the onset. But this one I used oil pastel because I liked the texture and how you could kind of blend it around. So let's see, I'm going off my list. So just, I guess, to share a little bit with you about, my own creative journey. To be honest with you, it's hard, like I have a full-time job teaching English. You take essays home to grade, dealing with a pandemic, having a family, just being alive, all of those things. And so for me, it was kind of in small steps. In 2016, I started my own blog where I was writing about 3 things that I love, which are travel and food and teaching. And I really liked it because it gave me this creative outlet. I hadn't written anything for fun in years. And I also liked with blogs how there was a visual component to it, right? And so I really appreciated that. I had a lot of fun with it. And then in 2018, I don't know what gave me the idea, but I had been a failed journaler for years. Especially as an English teacher, there's sort of this pressure, right? Like, I must write everything needs to be like gorgeous and like insightful and like, breaking new ground. So I would buy like these fancy, nice journals, from the bookstore, get like a nice pen, and I'd sit down and just be like, and I would hate everything that I wrote. And I didn't really approach it with a structure, but somehow I ended up going to Dollar Tree. I'm a big fan of Dollar Tree. And I would buy these like little tiny crappy notebooks, spiral notebooks. I mean, this one has cartoon sharks on it. I set the bar so low, it wasn't precious anymore. And that's what I would tell you is whatever kind of creative outlet you might want to pursue, don't make it too fussy to where you can't take risks, you can't break rules, you can't go out of order, you can't try new things, or you can't even say, you know what, I want to get in the habit of doing this. And I need to acknowledge on some days, it's not going to be great, but I should keep doing it anyway. And so for me, this crappy notebook really helped. I started that in 2018. And so what I was doing was in the evenings before I went to bed, a really busy, high energy person, I started having problems sleeping because I would wake up and I'd start thinking about things I needed to do. So before I went to bed, I would just take a page and I would just report, what did I do that day? No, oh, it was a bad day, or I had a delicious lunch. Nothing. Just I did this, I did that. Just brain dump. And then I would end and say three things I was thankful for on that day. And then in the morning, I would get up and I would just kind of free write. Like some days I would go on and talk for several pages, and others it'd just be a page or two. I could write about what I wanted to do that day, something I'd been thinking about, like a dream or a goal I had, whatever. And so it was just kind of like freestyling whatever I wanted in the morning. So even if my day was super packed, I didn't have a lot of time to take to myself or take for myself, that I at least had that window where I had that time where nobody was asking me for anything. I wasn't working on anything. And then I would have a record of stuff. And I found over time, sometimes I was getting like really cool insights and ideas in the morning. And so for me, that's what worked. And then, like I said, for years, I hadn't done art. But then getting back into this sparked me doing art. And so I started doing art in the mornings. And I'll be honest with you, I have since stopped because sometimes I don't take my own advice. I need to get back into it. But I just started doing like fun, mostly like double page spreads. So this is chalk pastel background. This is oil pastel. And these are all bananas. And I found myself with most of my pieces wanting to do a little surprise twist. So there's like one unripe banana up here in the corner. And I am known at FCC for having this banana necklace. And so I don't know, there's something to me that's very campy about bananas. I do like pop art, you know, Warhol, his Velvet Underground cover, like Peel and See. So I thought that was kind of fun. That's one of my favorites. And then again, the idea of not being too precious with what you're doing. So repurposing stuff. There's a cafe in my town I really like called Locals. And you can buy baked goods there, and they tie them with this grosgrain ribbon, and they'll give you stuff in a paper bag. So I started like repurposing the paper bags and the ribbons and just using like crummy stuff from the newspaper. This is a mocha pot from that Italy trip. So, you know, just looking at household objects, and again, like not taking yourself too seriously, just getting your ideas down, whether it's actual art or if you're a musician or, you know, if you're a writer. Here's another funny one. So the silver paper, this is actually a tissue box I was going to throw in the recycling. And when I folded it, you know, like broke it down flat, I noticed the interior was like silver. And I was like, I'm not throwing this away. So here again, I made a banana collage out of the tissue box. And I was spending some time with my friend who's Italian at the time. So I heard il banano. So yeah, just doing different things. Let me see. I bookmarked some pages, but I'm keeping an eye on the time too. I want to have people have time to ask questions. This was a fun exercise. I did take some online art classes through my public library. You can take these art classes. They're pre-recorded lectures through this platform called Creative Bug. And this was a really fun one where you were doing just cool art assignments. A lot was collage. And so again, like just using junky stuff. So like newspaper, paper bag from the grocery store. This is foil. But I did a self-portrait. If you saw my Zoom profile pic at the beginning, this is sort of an homage to that, minus the bubble wand. But these are actually like plastic bags that I cut out and glued to kind of be the bubbles, as it were. So I think for me, it became this time of just like joy, where I could do things and just not stress about them. Hold on, let me flip through. This was a cool one. Like I said, my classes are food themed. And one of the things that we study is food insecurity. And we look at how food waste ties into food insecurity in the United States. It's a real like messed up paradigm. And so for this 2-page spread, you can see here, we have some veggies, right? Broccoli, onion, shallot. This is all paper collage. And then on this side, these are prints that I made with the scraps from these veggies. So like this blue shape is actually the broccoli stalk, which normally I just throw in the compost. But instead I made stamps with the paint. So everything on this page, the scraps, I then used as sort of a painting tool on this page. So like, even if you just make this stuff for yourself, like just, I don't know, the emotional, the spiritual, like whatever, you being creative, like giving your mind space to just make stuff just because, not because it's a task for work or a class or something you must do, but something that you want to do. Then I have this huge one. I'll be done with this show and tell part in a moment. I really like cheese as well. And so I had gone to a friend's house and promised this fancy cheese tasting. So this is just a pattern and I used the same color. So I did cheese portraits of the cheeses that we had. If I remember correctly, this is this Australian feta style cheese. It's goat and sheep's milk, and it's in a jar of olive oil, and it's infused with like herbs. It's amazing. This was the hit. This is La Tour cheese. It's not kind of hard to draw. It's mostly white, kind of looks like a cupcake wrapper or like Jackie O's pillbox hat. It's a magical cheese. This is Drunken Goat. This is a Spanish goat milk cheese that has been washed in red wine. This is, oh my, what was that? I think this is Mimolette, which is a cheese from France. Its claim to fame is it kind of looks like a, I don't know, kind of looks like a cantaloupe that should probably go see the dermatologist. But you slice into it, it's this amazing, like vibrant orange color. But part of its delicious flavor comes from cheese mites, which are microscopic critters in the arachnid family, yes, like spiders, that contribute to the flavor of the cheese. They're dead, they're not on the cheese, they brush it off. It's not like that weird cheese people talk about from Sardinia with the maggots in it. No, no, no. Don't worry, I'm not showing up to anybody's house with that. And then this was, gosh, I can't remember, some kind of blue cheese. I wanna say Gorgonzola Dolce maybe, but I'm not positive. Anyway, yes, cheese spiders for real. They were delicious. The last one, I wanted to show you this because you saw my banana theme, right? And I talked to you about enjoying Andy Warhol, kind of his joy through pop art and his Peel and See cover for their Velvet Underground. So here, this is another 2-page spread. So here you have various, produce items. Here, the little hidden thing is a little ladybug. I grew up reading Richard Scarry's, what is it, Cars, Trucks, and Things That Go, and you had to find Goldbug. So I was like, well, I'm not going to totally rip them off. So it's a ladybug. This side is it's a paper bag until, like Mr. Warhol advised us, peel and see. And here you have the groceries. This one came unglued. But yeah, so it's a can of cans, boxes, carrots, that kind of stuff. And then again, just something surprising. This is a blank bottle. My husband's kind of type A. And so when he saw the blank bottle, it really bothered him. He's like, why is it not painted? Why are that? I'm like, it's supposed to be like your imagination. He's like, but why? I'm like, forget it. So, just to demonstrate, like, just have fun, think outside the box, do what works for you, and why not? We have one life to live, and sometimes we just need to do things that come from our experiences, our emotions, our unique creativity and perspectives. It doesn't have to be, we're always beaten down by this capitalist society where we're like, produce, right? Like, we have inherent worth in who we are and what we can create, even if it's not something that's monetized or even shared with other people. And I think it can bring you a lot of joy. It can bring you a lot of insight. And, if you choose to share it with other people. You know, your output, whatever it is, a song, a piece of art, a dance, a garden, I mean, whatever you enjoy doing can bring others joy and inspiration as well. So to close, I kind of went over, I got excited with the show and tell. If you need a copy of my book, you can go on my website. It will be shipped directly to your house. However, if you want a signed copy of my book, it's getting sent to you directly from the publisher. I can't get it and then send it and whatever. If you want it, when you do the order online, there's a note field. Put a note field in there. You can say, can I have a signed copy? I will email you and confirm. If you are in the FCC area, I can drop it off. If you are here in Montgomery County's Ag Reserve, the Poolsville area, I can drop it off for you as well. If you want to go and look at it first, the wonderful Curious Iguana bookstore in downtown Frederick has these. And if you are in Poolsville, and congrats for you to even know where Poolsville is, because most people don't, that wonderful cafe I was telling you about, Locals, they also have copies of my book. And then I should just do this, is horribly self-serving, but I'm gonna anyway. My next project I'm working on, because I told you I was crazy, is a book I'm co-authoring. It's going to be about mysteries and legends of the Ag Reserve. And so this is a flyer we have. It's going to be focusing on spooky folklore in and around Northwestern Ag Reserve in Montgomery County. And there are some wild, wild stories out here. So my co-author, Lennon, and I are working on this. We will actually be at Locals one weekend in October. People can come and chat with us. We're going to do a little presentation. They can be interviewed for the book. We're lining up our interviews. It's super exciting. I will also be doing in my town a haunted history tour to benefit our historical society, the Historic Medley District. And then I have a few events coming up for the Smithsonian. I told you I was crazy. I have one on Lexington Market in Baltimore. It's history. I have another one coming up on lavender, a hidden mystery, or sorry, hidden history. And then I have one in January on Dutch culture and cheese, which is very unique. Before we get to the Q&A, before I get excited and distracted, I just want to say again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope that maybe this has given you a little spark of inspiration, even if you just start with something simple like journaling or a little sketchbook or somewhere you could, you know, write song lyrics or knit or whatever you want to do. So we'll turn it over to the Q&A.